This conference will now be recorded.
If we have a quorum present, we'll go to item 2 then, adopt the agenda with the exception of the date on the top of the agenda. Is there any other additions or corrections to the agenda?
None from staff.
Okay. You get a motion to approve this?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries 6-0. Next, approve minutes of the June 10th, 2025 regular meeting, which I have another copy of those with you. Since I wasn't here, I can't comment whether they're good or bad. But thank you, by the way, Kim, for chairing the meeting.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes of the last meeting. Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes as printed. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries 6-0. Okay, public hearing, we have none scheduled that I don't believe there's none scheduled, so we'll move on to item 5, old business.
Yes, Chair and Commissioners. So I have brought tonight 2 quotes that I've received from American Legal Publishing and Unicode for possible ordinance codification. And just to kind of remind you guys, just what this was, it was about the process for updating our code book, our large code one, just about general ordinances, and our zoning code as well. And this would be put into an online program, make it easier for citizens to access, look through code, kind of just type things out, and in just a more searchable format. I've brought 2 examples from 2 other cities that I can show you as well. I'll pull up here in a second, from both companies as well. They look the same for the most part. It's mostly just about the meaning, the stuff in the details is what we're dealing with. So I brought some quotes and kind of ready for some discussion on them. I didn't print out the whole things because they're very large and lots of, unnecessary words in there, but just kind of seeing what our thoughts are on doing this. We definitely don't have to. It's mostly a want. So we do have money put away. I talked with Kim, and our exact budget's around $15,000. So that's what we have currently that we can make work immediately. Both these quotes, we would not have to pay the whole thing up front. It's a down payment. We pay as we go as things are taken care of. So it's like $4,000 now, which we have. So there's no budget impact currently. Looking ahead in the future, though, both these quotes will have recurring costs with them, and those can range. The low end would be $600, and that would be on the very low end, which I would not advise. However, on the higher end, it could range up to $3,000 if we so wanted to do that. Whatever we would like to do, we can make it work. We can just talk through some of those costs because they're not mandatory. Some of them are add-ons, but they may be useful now or in the future as well.
So it's just updates, or the 3,000, the 600 to 3,000? What is that for again?
That would be for recurring costs. So we have to pay, like, example is for Unicode, their quote is for about $12,500 now. And most of that's for legal fees. So the attorneys will review, they can do their whole labor costs, paying to ship the whole book to us, printing all those materials. But the recurring costs would be like, the range would be $3,000 at the highest, which would be for a whole bundle of options. So that would be, we want to have some custom options on there. Like we want the letterhead on there, or we want, we want extra ordinance review. We can put all of our ordinances back from like 1850 on there if we really wanted to. So things like that, these extra kind of links, which I don't feel as though are all necessary, but if you do all of them, you do get a discount, but that's where the $3,000 comes from there. Unicode in particular, they have a mandatory recurring fee of $1,700 a year, and that's for general updates. It's the same with American Legal. It's just a little bit higher, but I do feel as though with Unicode, that recurring cost is a little bit better because we get more services out of that recurring cost. So we do pay extra with Municode, but there's, in my opinion, a larger benefit to it because they provide more overall general service than American Legal does. However, both these are pretty flexible and they're kind of in the same price range, generally speaking, because they both do the same exact thing. I'll show you the demo with the two cities that I had pulled up. With American Legals, which is from Lewiston, Minnesota, this is what it looks like. So this is what the final product would look like online. So if you're looking for dogs, you can just kind of click around, learning about animal ordinances, which I've been working on.
We're doing dogs now in
All. So if you're looking for dogs, you can kind of just click through, and there's animals. You can kind of click and look around, and that's everything listed out. You can copy and paste it. There's links for like the fee schedule in there, which are just nice and useful because if you're like, I don't know what the fee is, you can now just click and see.
This is the American Legal.
This is what American Legal looks like. And this,
Are the clicks intuitive enough? I mean, you got to the animals. I don't know. I would have been clicking around a lot more than you, and I know
You
that
can
just
search.
because you've been,
You can search.
oh, then the search.
yep, yeah,
Sorry.
there's a search bar. It's the same as if you did like control find on.
Yep, the
Okay.
okay.
PDF book as well.
So then, like, when we would change ordinances in our code committee, they could change them in there,
Yep, that's,
and just notify them and,
yeah, we do them on a scheduled basis. So
Yeah.
like once every 6 months, we would reach out to them and say, hey, we passed these ordinances during this stretch. Can you update it? It wouldn't be updated automatically, of course. That's why we do those schedules.
yeah.
But, within time, it's a lot quicker than us doing it. I can promise you that. Because we have to print off the whole book
Right.
every time we make an amendment or any change.
Yeah. I have a book now that's about this thick from 20 years ago.
Yeah.
That's how much room they take.
And for reference, this is currently what ours looks like right now on the website. So if you go look on the website and you're looking for our ordinances, this is what it looks like when you pull it up. And
Yeah.
it's just a lot harder. I mean, it's 358 pages, and if you're looking for anything, you can control find for it, but it's just a lot more difficult. in my
And this
opinion.
way, anybody could look it up, right?
Yep, anyone can look it up. You can see history, so they'll add, when we make an amendment, you can see previous versions of that ordinance as well. So it tracks us throughout time. So it's kind of a partnership to do this. And you're paying for a service, but we also do get these extra services like the legal review. They will be updating and modernizing our code. One of the suggestions they have, which is pretty generalized anyway, but like general neutralization. Like there's a lot of our old ordinances that say him in there or her in there when they would just say they instead, because it's just more legalized and modernized and makes the lawyers a little bit happier when it's just like that anyway. And then for reference, Chatfield has Municode, for example. And so this is what Municode looks like.
Looks the same.
It looks the same. I would say it's a little bit more user-friendly. The clicks are a little bit faster. You can kind of breeze through things a little bit quicker, in my opinion. So if I was looking for animals, there's a chapter of animals in Chatfield. But if I'm looking up dogs. Both the programs are going to have, you can just search it like a library almost, where it has all of these. You can look for any reference of dogs. So if I did the same thing with American Legal, it would do the same exact thing. So that basically, they're the same program.
But this one is a little more user-friendly, you say?
I would say
The other
Chatfield,
one.
I would say Municode is more, but also like, it does cost more as well. And so
Cost a lot more.
there's a difference. I can kind of,
$1,000 or something?
Code was cheaper slightly, wasn't it? 12 something versus 14 something?
for the one-time cost, recurring costs,
Recurring
Municode
cost.
would cost more over time.
Right.
And
A
so,
lot more.
I mean, over time, yes, it would cost a lot more.
But I mean, per time? $500 or $5,000?
It depends. I can kind of walk through it. Each of these have specific
Well, I
kind of
think cost is
provisions.
something that we really have.
Well, and where is the budget for the recurring costs? Does that come from? Is that,
We would have to build it in. So we would build in those additional costs.
So now we have $15,000 to use to get it started.
That's right, yep. And we were kind of saying that that's for the one-time fee of getting, because this is going to take 2 years to do. So we wouldn't even be doing these recurring costs until it's ready. So we still have at least 18 months before we're even actually building that in, giving us a lot of time to add that potentially $1,000 recurring cost. And to point out as well, most cities have this type of program. It's just kind of which one you do. I would say generally, as I was kind of researching, typically smaller cities around our size would have American Legal. I would say Chatfield is an exception from what I could tell, but lots of larger cities would have MuniCode, but that's also because they can withstand the cost much better as well.
One question comes to mind, if, say, 3 years down the road, the city council says, we just don't have the money to pay the recurring costs. Does that lock us out of the electronic version of this, or is that something that we own?
We would have the ordinance book that they have done, but the online code like that, what I showed you, that would be gone because that's what the yearly cost is for. It's so that they host the site for us.
Okay.
And so they run it for us.
Do you know what the recurring cost would be after this gets all done and then we have to pay yearly to get?
$1,700 from Unicode, right?
Yep. If we got nothing, which includes not having the website, it would cost $1,700 a year. But if we do the website, which is definitely something I would like to do because I think that's kind of a lot of the point we're doing this, it would be $2,200 a year for MuniCode. So every year we're paying $2,200 a year. If we just did what we are mandatory supposed to do and the website. So that's the bare bones, would be $2,200 a year. Now, if we wanted to add on, like one thing I had is they would provide for $175 a year, we could get the whole book of ordinances in a Microsoft Word document, which would be super helpful because as we do our code updates in code committee, I can just use that instead of what I have to do now, which takes a lot of more staff time and resources, just scan in the ordinance and then convert it and then do all my work from there. This would just be updated and provided to us without me having to do it myself, which would be helpful, I would say. I'd say worth the $175 in printing anyway, alone. So that's something that I think would be beneficial. In the original quote, Unicode has us paying $3,000, I think it's $3,075.
Yep.
Yep, that's correct?
Yep.
$3,075 a year right now. But that extra $1,000 comes in. They have put us in the premium bundle, which includes some add-ons like an ordinance bank of that history stuff, links to other, maybe state statutes, some extra things like that. I personally do not feel that those are necessary. We can still, if we did all those again, we can add them on later. If we want them, we can get them later, but the cost would go up for those because we're getting a discount for them currently. So we could do everything for $3,000 a year, which is great, but it is a way larger expense.
And that would include these updates, the 3,000?
Yep. We're going to get the updates no matter what, because that's what we're paying for with a yearly subscription. That's that original $1,700 we pay for updates every single year. That's basically what that costs us for. We can get whatever update we want, no questions asked. But these other add-ons is where we get that additional up to the $3,000. So the base minimum is $1,700 a year. But in my opinion, it's $2,200 because of the site hosting for the website as well. So that's kind of the base. It's just kind of what we do from there. If we wanted to go that route, we can. If we want to do the premium bundle and do everything, that's totally fine. We can make it work. Kim is totally fine with it. I kind of chatted with her earlier. She said she's completely fine with whatever we choose to do just because it's not a big cost. We can work it in. We can build it in over time. Again, we don't have to do it for really another 18 months or so anyway, since we're paying kind of in increments as we get there. So we could do that.
So that it would be decided for the annual cost recurring, we have time to look at that and think about that a year or two down the road anyway.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, let's say today we're like not sure what we want, and you want me to get more information, kind of see how this process goes. I can add it in at any time, I'm sure. They will be glad to take our money at any point, I'm sure. But
What was the recurring cost in American Legal? Is there-
so for American Legal, the upfront cost is a little bit higher. Their upfront cost for both zoning and our code book is $14,500.
their annual?
Adding on, there's a setup fee for the site and things like that, which is $795. And then their recurring fee flat is $595 a year. However, that cost increases every year, 2%. So it would add $12 a year. So a lot less. I mean, it's basically nothing, but that 2% will grow and compound over time. So it is a lot less. And they also have a lot of add-ons, but they didn't have it built in as well. So, and a lot of their add-ons also unnecessary, but they also cost a lot less too. So we're getting a lot of the same thing for a lot less cost. But to add a lot of context and some of my workings with them, I would say MuniCode has been a lot easier to deal with than American Legal. I've been pulling a lot of teeth to get a lot of information out of American Legal, and general responses has been a little bit harder. I don't know if that weighs in. I will work with either of them. It'd be no problem at all. But, and a lot of other cities have worked with American Legal, no problem. But I would just say communication wise, MuniCode has been a lot better, but they also have a larger organization. I've been dealing with a lot of salesmen, so we know salesman tactics, right? They're going to get our money. They're going to go and try to get it for sure. So
And what is the name of the one that Chatfield has, the name of it?
that'd be MuniCode. MuniCode.
Muni?
Yep.
M-U-N?
Like municipal, MUNI code, muni code.
Yep. And this is what they do across the nation. Both of them do this across the nation. It's kind of their whole business model, but MuniCode, obviously it's in the name as well.
And that's kind of the one that you're leaning to, Unicode, isn't it?
That would be my staff recommendation, I think. There is an additional cost every year, but there is a larger upfront cost with American Legal.
It's user-friendly, more user-friendly, you said.
In my opinion, I just think it's a little bit more in your face, and I do think our city's going to grow in accordance with that. As in, over time, we're going to see increased amount of people that live here, and it might be easier to do it because I don't think they have the increases that American Legal has, where they have the 2% increase every year.
And when we think of that cost compared to the amount of households there are in Zumbrota, I mean, it's minimal.
Generally speaking, yeah. I mean, obviously, right now, it's going to be a larger burden. You know, that recurring cost every year is a larger burden, more substantial. But I do think for what we get, it does, we're getting what we're paying for, definitely. I do think American Legal is also very good too. We get a great cost with them. The recurring cost is very great. We get a lot out of it. I think either work fine with staff. I think I'm okay with either. It's just more about, specifically with MuniCode, it's going to be those add-ons at the end. How much do we want to pay? What are we willing to pay for? And that base cost is $2,200 a year, which is significantly higher than American Legal's. For many years it'll be. So
The upfront cost is $3,000 difference between the two, is that it?
yeah, it's about that. So MuniCode's upfront is $12,500 upfront for MuniCode. American Legal is $14,500.
Yeah.
So that's the difference at the start, but over time, you know, doing the math, it'll equate out eventually very evenly, but you know, it'll take a lot of time.
Well, 3 years, MuniCode will cost more, bigger than the recurring cost.
Possibly, it could. And, you know, there's also add-ons we could do with American Legal as well. So, you know, yeah, I don't want to give my opinion on it just because I really think either is completely fine with me. And, you know, I don't want to do the larger costs, obviously for taxpayer purposes, just because it could be an unnecessary burden on taxpayers to add in an extra $2,000 a year potentially. You know.
When you divide it out, like you said.
Zumbrota, I mean, that isn't even 6 months taxes for one house in Zumbrota. When you
Yeah.
think of it that way. And I don't know how many $1 million our budget is for Zumbrota for running the city.
Yeah, and we do, I mean, we have contingencies put aside, like, money wise, it's no problem. It's just kind of more over time, like, are we okay with adding this into a budget where we feel comfortable putting on a recurring cost like this to taxpayers?
But I think it's important that we have one that's user friendly and that the office staff is thinking that it's the program to get.
Yep.
And if you have an issue that they're gonna call you back, you don't have to pull teeth, I mean, that's always a big.
Especially with a lengthy process, I think, it's going to be 18 months and, both of them are going to work very well, I'm sure. And American Legal will be great as well. Like, they're not going to be a problem. It's just more Unicode. There's a lot of places I can contact when I've been dealing mostly with American Legal, one person who hasn't been super responsive, I would say, but it's been fine. But those are considerations when it's the cost of doing business and something that's going to be
They're
big
more
for.
likely to get someone to answer the phone with Unicode.
Well,
Well,
that's
yeah,
right.
and I mean, what you can't necessarily factor in exactly is your time, right? Because there's a cost already that's being spent for the maintenance of the code as it is now.
Yep.
It's not really a line item that
Good
we
point,
can
good
see.
point.
Yeah.
And so there's time that you're having to spend, or someone, or Miranda, or others are spending on updating these things that won't be happening, that other activities could then
Right.
be taking place that improve other.
Using their efforts someplace else.
Exactly.
In the town, yeah.
Yeah.
Even right now, as I've been working on, obviously with code committee, rewriting the animal ordinance, I mean, the format itself is, it's out of date. And a lot of this is going to get modernized. And, I'm having to manually do that. And even that general neutralization I'm talking about, I spent a lot of time today just pulling out him and her out of our ordinance just so I could put in they instead. And so a lot of these things we won't have to deal with and they get to deal with.
The code committee for enforcement, what's the status of that? Is that, I mean, the city formed a committee for how enforcing the codes and whatever it was. Is that the committee you're talking about?
Yep, that's right.
What's the status of that? Is that meeting still achieving anything or what's?
Do we do what?
Is it-
Beverly's on it, yeah.
Yeah, and what is the status? Is some action happening or what's the progression
Yeah,
of
now
that?
we're working on the dog.
So what are you
Yeah,
doing?
we've done with the trailer, parking of trailers, parking of campers, services. That's been, I think, a year we've been working on that, about.
That
parking.
ordinance will reappear at the first meeting in August for city council. So heads up on that one.
And the last
The RV ordinance.
Oh,
yeah, I mean,
that's
when-
gonna,
When that came in the first time, there was standing room only, even out there. It was unreal. Yes, yeah.
But currently, right now, we are doing the animal ordinance, so it's been I get suggestions and review from our committee, but I am the one that's actually putting it in writing and revising the ordinance, and then I'll bring it back.
And this codification work that will simplify the process for that committee then also, because they're going to be doing some of those updates.
I believe so, because they would be checking any state statute changes. Like today, I spent about 3 hours doing state statute changes for the animal ordinance itself. They would be doing that for all of them. So then we can just focus on kind of those, how do we want it to actually look compared to those mandatory
Give me an
changes?
example, I didn't see, is there a lot of cross references or when they write it, do they pretty much put it here? They would say, for this part, we'll go to here and then make you do a lot of cross references. You got to skip around to find out what your real answer is or?
I mean, are you talking about animal or are you just talking about general?
In general, on the way, when they do this codification and put it online.
I honestly don't know how it would look. I don't know the way they write the code, but my anticipation is that they would just cite state statute if they're going to do it, or cite exactly what they're talking about, and there would be a link to that, is how I would understand it,
Yeah,
but
now there's different parts of the ordinances that aren't clear, And so, the police, chief of police
Right.
would like it to be stated so that when something does happen, like somebody's got their
Trailer parked in front of the house
place
for
parked
2
where
weeks.
their dog is, someplace it shouldn't be, or whatever,
Yeah.
they've got an animal in town that is not, that he can go to that statute and say, because of this number, 781, you
Right.
can't do this. Otherwise, he doesn't really have any right to what he goes to tell the people.
Well, and you also mentioned too that they would go through and if there's any contradictory language, clarify all of that as well, so.
That's where this significant cost comes from, that one-time fee of, $14,000. That's where it's coming from. Because if we wanted to just put this on a site, it costs us about $600 and we could do it, That's what the original quote was for, is I want to put it on the site, do it like that. $700, one-time setup, and then $500 every year. But the big cost comes from that legal review for everything we have.
This takes 18 months. I mean, shouldn't we get started on
So,
this?
yeah, it makes sense to have this first part done, and just keep thinking of the maintenance costs, the ongoing. But worst case scenario, we still got a hard copy, we can say to heck with it and have our hard copy like what we do now. So,
Yep, I mean, if we wanted to pull out of the contract, we would have to pay, for it anyway. But at the very minimum, if we were like, we don't want to do the site or anything like that, at the very minimum, we're getting a legal review for our whole ordinance book
right.
and a whole new book itself too.
And I think once everybody got used to this, there'd be no thought of even pulling out, because it's gonna be so handy and so easy to use.
I mean, I think so. I mean, I get a lot of complaints about, I want to look through the zoning code about where I can put my fence. But it's so hard to find where the fence part is. It's just a lot easier if I can just go in and type fences and the whole
Spend a lot of
section.
time on fences too.
Yeah.
Well, I just went through and I tried to do a comparison, right? Muni code is 12,450 with the reoccurring of what you're recommending at 2,200, it's 14,450. So we're even under the current budget that gets us that 1 year of renewal. American Legal's at 14,500 with a couple of their reoccurring, as much as I could kind of do a comparison, is 1295. So they're actually more expensive at 15,795. So 1,345 more. So
Who's more expensive?
American Legal.
Right.
So I would,
Go with your recommendations. Sounds like, yeah.
go with what you're saying, Miles, as far as Unicode's more accessible from a customer service perspective. It meets our budget, and we have the reoccurring cost that, yes, it might be slightly more expensive, but in the broad spectrum of things, it's not a ton of question. I will move to, yes, to recommend, or whatever I want to say, recommend that we contract with Municode for the zoning and ordinance code codification.
I would like to add as well, as if I end up accepting one of these quotes, possibly Municode, what I'll do is I will have what we talk about, the minimum put in there, so that mandatory one we have to do, that 1,700, and then the site hosting as well. So I'll put in the minimum, and then I'll talk about, we want to build this over time, so we can build a budget for this, and we can talk more about what specifically we would like to have. I'll add probably that Microsoft Word thing, just because I really want it, if that's okay with you guys. But, going ahead, we can have some time so we can actually build a budget for this. And it's, again, slightly higher, but I think they'll be okay with that. And as far as like that, discount bundling, if we wanted to do it, theoretically, as a salesman would, he said he can get us that price for possibly the next few years. So if we were like, we want to do everything, we could get that price again. So it wouldn't be as expensive if we later down the line, we were like, we want to do everything. Theoretically, we could possibly still get that price of $3,000.
We got a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. We moved and seconded that we recommend to City Council the adoption of the Municode offer. Is there any other discussion? Okay, we will call for a vote then. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries 6-0. Stick. Oh, yeah, I was saying 5. Yeah, can't count. You're right. So they're all 5 for minutes. Okay, thank you. New business, quarterly update, safe built permitting.
Yes, thank you, Chair and Commissioners. So I wasn't able to do this for the first quarter since I wasn't hired yet, but kind of moving ahead, I would like to provide our Planning Commission with a permit review of our procedures and how many we're issuing, what the money looks like, and just providing that information every quarter. So this is our second quarter update. I'll have another one in, I believe it'll be September, I think will be the next one for the third quarter. But so this is just informational only, and I'll be doing this going ahead. So it's mostly just for your review. You can look at, permits that we're issuing by type, how many fees we're getting. And this is just for this quarter. So this is from April through June. For the entire year, I think we're at about 100 or so total. So we did a lot this quarter, but that makes sense because it was April, May, June. So lots of our biggest ones, I believe, were the deck permits and re-roofs were our largest issues. So we did the most of those. And so you can kind of see the amount of inspections we're doing, the plan reviews, applications that we have, and permits issued.
Who is doing the inspections nowadays?
It's still safe built. So these are just people we contract with through Minspect. So they're still doing it for us. And things have slowed down a little bit because our previous inspector left. So he took another job. So we've been kind of in a little bit of a lull with who's doing inspections, but we have someone hired and I believe he's started doing them already. So we are back in the swing of things. So yeah, I didn't have anything of note with it. We didn't have any issues. So,
Did I ask the commercial 200,000 what that permit was? The very first one?
I believe that's for Comcast. I think it's for them. I think they're adding an addition onto their building.
Okay.
If I were to guess, it would be that.
With that, yeah.
But-
Okay. Any other questions for Miles on the report? Thank you, Miles. Other questions? Okay, is there any other items to be brought up? Others?
None from staff.
I want to know what's going on, whatever happened with the bank, the company that was coming in to build the apartments. I know the last time.
Yeah, the apartments.
Remember there was they're supposed to have their plans in, there was a deadline, they were pushing the deadline again and again.
Yep. So they would like to start building August 1st, which is not going to happen. But that's mostly because we still have yet to receive exact plans.
It was going to happen in March, we were told first.
Yeah, well, they did the TIF agreement in March, so we weren't, they were definitely not ready then. So we've had communication with them and meetings, and our engineers have started to look at plans. I have looked at some site plans, but those are preliminary and I cannot provide them currently, but I have seen things. We are working on it. I'm currently writing the development agreement for them. So that will be passed along to our engineers for review and everything will come in time, but they're not going to start August 1st. They may start demolition August 1st. They have a permit to do so, and that will probably happen, but there will be no building until we have things shook out negotiation wise, but you'll see any agreements moving forward.
Were they able to get that TIF money that they wanted then?
Yeah, council did approve the TIF money. I don't know the exact figure for it, but they did.
They were able to acquire that.
Yep.
The building.
Yep. And they're working entirely with grants as well from the state. So everything is funded for them. It's just a matter of time of like, when do they want to send over things and when do they actually want to hash out the negotiations? So
Yeah, what's the holdup? I mean, I just think they're a little sneaky, but I could be wrong.
my interpretation is that they are working on multiple properties currently in a few different communities. And so their time is stretched with those.
Okay.
However, I also think that there is possibly a negotiation tactic on we are holding out as long as possible so that we can force the city to make additional concessions on things.
Right.
However,
I mean, if they start, I mean, that's what I'm saying, if they start going ahead and demolitioning, then they kind of got you there too.
well, they own the property, so they can do whatever they would like
Yeah, they
with it.
can,
They
they
do
can,
own- oh,
they
they
can
own
tear
it.
it down.
Yep, they own it, so it's completely theirs to
If they
do.
want to, and, you know.
They can tear it down, it can sit there without anything on it.
Yep,
Okay.
if anything, if let's say nothing were to happen, there really would be no skin off the city's back. We have no obligation to them.
Yeah, okay.
If they, for whatever reason, throw away millions of dollars in grants, there's nothing hurting the city. We haven't done anything. They own the property, so,
Okay, I just curious.
yep, so there's no liability for the city currently right now. And I would say our agreement is very strong. They're not going to like it. So that will be trimmed down, of course, through negotiations. But as far, you know, it's a controversial building, obviously. And, you know, council and neither our planning commission is going to approve anything that the city would be hurt by. So I would say we're in completely safe hands. Our attorney handles a lot of this as well. He's not going to let the city get hurt. Our engineers definitely will not either. They're very thorough. I'm working with them currently on, you know, reviewing some things and reviewing this development agreement as well. So I would say nothing yet, but I would say there's definitely no reason to worry about the city's liability in this
Is
matter.
much happening on the development on 9th Street East?
As far as I'm aware of, I don't think so. I think,
One lot has been sold, maybe?
yeah, I think that maybe they're starting something, but I think from the last I heard that there's no movement on anything yet. So I'm not too sure, but I haven't heard much about it, so.
Is the sewer project, is that progressing or what? That's still in the plans?
It's still in the plans. We have some money for it as well. We are currently moved ahead in Senator Klobuchar, Senator Smith, Congressman Finstad's congressional spending. So we're hoping that maybe we can get about $12 million more for it. So we would probably, I don't know what the figure we're at, but we have stuff put away now. So I think we're at maybe 10 to 15 million currently. That might be low, but I'm not too sure, honestly. So we're hoping we can get that money from Congress so we could be in the 20s range. But we're just hoping we can move ahead with other spending. We weren't named in the bonding bill from the state, so we don't have any exact dollars coming from the state currently for this year, but possibly we still may get some from this year. Hopefully next year we'll be able to get.
Is there any chance that money won't be there when they go to build this sewer system? The way they're cutting everything?
I would say, I mean, anything's a possibility. I don't know from my angle specifically, but I do know that our city will not be hurt by any prolonged movement on this financing for it. We are in the best shape of any of the communities, that I would say by far. I would say if anyone has to worry, it's any of the other communities around us.
Good use worse off.
Goodhue's plant will be closing in 2027 as well, so they really want this to happen. So, and we are easily capable of handling what we need in the meantime until this happens, but it'll happen eventually. It's just going to be slow moving. And we weren't going to even start to build for a few more years anyway, too. So we still have lots of time to make this happen, but it was kind of unfortunate that the state legislature didn't name us in the bonding bill this year, but they didn't name any projects. So we didn't get left out. They just chose not to name anything. So we still may get some trickling in as well.
The other thing I was going to ask is vacancy on this board. Do we want to do anything else to try and recruit another member for the commission here, or how do we stand?
Yeah, because you know I'll be leaving.
For sure now?
When is that going to take place?
My last meeting will probably be October.
Okay.
Oh, you're resigning?
I'm moving back to Arizona.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I know. All the right reasons, though. Yeah.
She's claiming it right.
Yeah, I'm going back to.
I'm not going in July.
I'm going up to Prescott though, so it's cooler. It's 5,000 feet. So it'll be
Yeah.
cooler.
son got to November, and he said, I ain't going for another winter. He moved to Arizona.
As far as I know, for our vacancy goes, I know Kim was talking to someone about possibly joining, but I've had zero official interest. So I've tried some different, ways to actually get some interest, but they haven't been successful and engagement has been low on them. So I don't know. To be honest with you, I have no idea. I just say it's going to come with time, but I don't know.
Fred might know some people, he knows.
Do any of the cities around pay the commissioners on the zoning and planning?
I don't know for sure. I would have to look into
Cities
it.
don't.
I don't
was on the
know.
county level from our county for several years, and we were
Yeah,
compensated very well.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I think,
If that would happen, you likely would get some people that wanted to be on, because, this is absolutely volunteer, and it's nothing but, I'm not saying headache, but takes our time, and we get a lot of back talk from some of the stuff that we signed on.
yeah, that's true. I don't know for sure. I think maybe Shakopee, when I was there, I think they possibly pay their planning commissioners, but I don't know specifically, but I could look into it and kind of see. Maybe that could be an option, but I would have to kind of check and especially see with Kim.
We
Because
need people on,
And
so.
I'll ask around too, I'll mention it to the people. I know, my job.
Gotta replace yourself, Connie.
it's kind of weird too, because our code committee, we will have a new member for code committee. So we got someone to be interested in joining. So that one's going to be full, but planning commission is a lot tougher to get apparently. So,
And planning commission is very official, where code isn't,
yeah,
We've got special things that we have to do, and code is just, let's get this talked about and straightened out and that kind of thing. But
that's right. Yeah.
planning commission, it can lead to some pretty serious stuff.
like you mentioned, Schumann. Okay, well, if there's
Yeah, I've
no,
been watching, hoping stuff goes in that shed, that's all I gotta say, just amongst us friends. Some of that junk around there, and not happening yet, but
Up north, you mean?
Schumann.
Did that come in with the right dimensions, that big barn that he's put up?
I don't know. I wasn't here for it.
It's huge.
I can't answer that.
Well, I don't.
is it taller than the house?
Well, it had to be.
It's bigger than his house, isn't it?
I think so.
As far as I'm aware, we had no problems with it. So,
Ordinance is it's not supposed to be taller than the house, so.
And then who's keeping track of when he has to have those other sheds down? We gave him, what?
Yeah, they're still there. Is it till December?
Again, who watches over that?
Negotiation turned out to be longer than that. That was the trouble, after the lawyers got involved.
Who keeps track of that? It's,
That's what I'm wondering too, if anybody's checking on that.
is that the city's job?
theoretically, I would say it'd be my job, but as well as even our police department, we act on complaints.
The building inspector, when they inspected the building, did they have the information as far as height and dimensions, all that?
Previous inspector is now not working for us, so he would probably have it, but he doesn't work here anymore. So
He wouldn't have filed the report somewhere or something?
I'm sure I could look and find it.
I guess that would be.
I can talk with Kurt
We'd
as
all
well.
be, we'd all be curious about that.
Yep, I can chat with Kurt and see. He probably has the information for it. So.
All right.
Since there was a lawsuit also.
I'm curious about it too.
Yeah, since there was a lawsuit, you would think about
we
why
agreed to.
wouldn't it
Right.
be
Well,
followed up
right.
on rather than just by a complaint?
I don't know. I don't have answers to those questions.
It's like, oh, that was a big
Because
deal.
what good is it to make the rules if they're just gonna do?
Right, because there's no fine then, is that correct? I mean, he could just say, well, just keep until
Did
somebody
There have been
complains, there's
instances-
no
I
fine.
don't know if in our city, but there have been instances where then they have to be removed because they just totally.
That goes back to the code committee, how to decide how they're going to be enforced, right?
Well, I don't know.
Okay, well, we've completed our agenda. I'm going to call the meeting adjourned at 6:15. Thank you all.
I need a motion on that.
Okay, the motion to adjourn? Somebody
I
move second.
second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Yeah, as far as recruiting somebody, I'm not sure. Your neighborhood might be an interesting one because there's so many loners up there that don't really